Alrighty, we are live and we are doing our daily learning of the book of Mishlei. We're here every day, 12 o'clock to 12:20, and we do our learning on Sunday through Thursday, and again every day, 12 to 12:20, Sunday through Thursday, in the book of Mishlei. I'd like to thank everyone that's joining us. I know there's a busy day today for everyone, inauguration, etc. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time. Chapter 15, King Solomon teaches the following. A soft-spoken word will be able to cool off anger. If you respond to someone gently, you can cool off their anger. You can calm them down. But if you speak with anger, it only escalates the tensions. It only escalates the anger. So King Solomon is urging us, always choose calmness, always choose soft-spokenness, and that is what will ultimately de-escalate things. Leshon chachamim teitiv dat. When you speak to smart people, that's only going to increase your own wisdom. Ufik silim yabia ivelet. But if you listen to the foolish, then that always increases the opposite of wisdom. It increases silliness, etc. Verse 3, B'chol makom einei Hashem tzofot. God's eyes are open at are looking at everything. Ra'im v'tovim. God looks at everyone, bad and good. God is always looking at everything, no matter what. Pasuk Daled, Marpeh lashon etz chaim. A healing word, a healing tongue is a tree of life. If you give someone a good word, that keeps them alive, that revives them. And if someone is always distorting their words, that breaks people. A foolish person will despise the advice of his father, and the book of Mishlei is always an analogy to another thing. So it's talking about both someone who disregards the wisdom of their elders, as well as someone who disregards God's advice. The father here being God. But one who listens to the advice, one who listens to the even constructive criticism, then that person will become stronger and smarter. Chapter 15, verse 6. The house of the righteous is very solid. Why? Because the righteous is always thinking about the next step of what preventative measures they should take, of what anticipatory measures they should take. Beit tzadik chosen ra. The house of the righteous is sitting on a strong foundation. Uvitvuat rasha ne'ekeret. However, the wicked are exactly the opposite. Not only is their house not a source of strength, but even their wealth, even their grains are a source of destruction. Verse 7, Siftei chachamim yezaru dat. The words of the wise, the mouths of the wise, will constantly not only bring out wisdom, but they will crown wisdom. When you speak to someone who's smart, they don't just mention wisdom, they value it. They show that they have true respect for it. Siftei chachamim yezaru dat, like a zer is what goes on the head. They will crown wisdom. However, uchsilim loken, the lev ksilim loken, the heart of the foolish is the exact opposite. It does not value wisdom. Verse 8, zevach reshaim to'avat Hashem. This is such a powerful lesson. Zevach reshaim to'avat Hashem. The korbanot, the good deeds of the wicked, they are an abomination to God. And what is this talking about? Obviously, every good deed, no matter what, is very much important and valued. However, what is a problem is when someone does something good so that they can allow themselves to then do something bad, so that they can allow themselves to then go off and do negative things. Next pasuk. But the prayer of the righteous, that is God's desire. Pasuk tet, to'avat Hashem derech rasha umeradef tzedakah yehav. The abomination of God is the path of the wicked. And it's so important because King Solomon repeatedly speaks about the path someone takes, because we never end up in action in isolation. There's always a path that God is there. So what he's saying is God doesn't only despise actions of wickedness, but also the actions that lead to wickedness. Next, Pasuk Yud. I'm sorry, so Tet. The abomination of God is the path of the wicked, and God loves the person who pursues charity. Not only does he like a person who does good deeds, but even a person who is chasing good deeds, who's trying to do good deeds, is beloved by God. Pasuk Yud. Musar ra le'ozev orach. Someone who strays off the path of righteousness, of kindness, of forthrightness, is eventually going to suffer the consequences of that abandonment that they did. Someone who is very strong-minded and they hate any kind of feedback, they hate any kind of advice. They always, they know their way is the right one. Eventually, that will lead to their own death and destruction. Someone who hates advice, someone who hates wisdom is going to die. Verse 11, Sheol ve'avadon neged Hashem. God is able to see even to the center of the universe where you have lava and different levels and it's just so complex. God can see anything. God sees any place in the world. So surely God can see into humans' hearts. The idea is, if God can see the entire universe, if God can see into the Sheol, which is considered, the end of ends, then God can surely see into the heart of human beings. Surely God can see into the hearts of human beings. Pasuk Yud Bet, we're in chapter 15, verse 12. Lo ye'ehav le'tzocheach lo. A person who is let's means like a clown, someone who's always joking around and cynical, doesn't want to accept any wisdom or advice. He despises constructive feedback. He despises instruction, and therefore he does not come to the wise. Therefore he avoids the wise because he does not desire their advice. Now we come to a really beautiful thing, and it speaks about the importance of smiling. If you have an open heart, if you have a happy heart, then that will reflect itself onto your face. And there's a commentary here from Rashi who explains this is not just talking about the importance of having happiness in your heart, which will then be reflected on your face. He is talking about the happiness in God's heart. If you make God happy, if you follow in God's paths, if you do the right thing, then that same goodness that is in God's heart will have him shine his face on you. Lev sameach yativ panim, the happy heart will improve the look on the face. Ube'atzvat lev ruach nechea. And when there is a sad heart, when there's a broken heart, then you have a broken spirit. Next, Pasuk Yud Dalet, verse 14, chapter 15, verse 14. Lev navon yevakesh dat. We've seen this in the words of King Solomon many times. When you have a smart person, the first thing a smart person does is they seek more wisdom. Lev navon yevakesh dat. Ufi chesilim yirei velet. And the mouth of the foolish will constantly seek foolishness. Now we come to a very tragic pasuk. Kol yemei ani ra'im. The days of a poor man are always tough. And what does this mean? Obviously, being poor is not an easy or fun thing. What it's saying here, the Talmud says, even Shabbat and Yom Tov are difficult for the poor person. Why? Because every day he has a hard time, he doesn't have food, he doesn't have proper shelter, he doesn't have proper clothing. Finally, it comes Shabbat, and whether he's invited out or he has delicious food that he saved up for Shabbat. Comes Shabbat, and his stomach is so used to the hard bread that he eats, the difficult things that are in his stomach, and even then he gets sick from eating such good foods. And the rabbis actually learn from here a very interesting biological health-related topic idea, which is Shinui Veset Tchilat Choli Me'ayin. If you change your diet, that's the beginning of having stomach illness. Meaning, if a person, well, obviously we're not talking about changing it for the better, but if a person has a regular routine of eating, then changing that is something that will cause them trouble. Next is just such a beautiful pasuk, just absolutely beautiful. Tov me'at be'irat Hashem. It is better to have a little bit with the fear of God, me'otzar rav u'me'uma bo, from having a great amount of wealth and having chaos with it. Tov me'at be'irat Hashem. It's better to have a little bit with fear of God, me'otzar rav u'me'uma bo, than having a great treasure and having a pandemonium with it. Next is there's a story about King Solomon who once dressed up as a ordinary folk, regular person, and he traveled as a pauper, and he ran out of money. There was no credit card back then, so he ran out of money. And so he comes to a house, and he arrives at this house, and it is the most absolutely beautiful, gorgeous mansion there is. It's just, they're clearly very wealthy. And they invite him in kind of begrudgingly. They sit him at the table, and they don't even want to talk to him. They think he's just another pauper. And they bring to the table these huge amounts of food. They bring the most delicious delicacies in the world. There's meat, there's steaks, there's veal. There's the most delicious and auspicious meal out there. And they say, take, don't just have some food. Just eat what you need to eat. And King Solomon sits there, and then he sees the people in the house are fighting with each other. The husband with the wife, the children, everyone's fighting with one another. And they're screaming and yelling, and eventually they send him off after he's had this luxurious meal. He feels terrible. Then King Solomon, after a few days, passes next to the home of an extremely poor family. And as he comes in, they say, "Oh, come, we're so happy to have a guest. We are so excited that you are here." They sit him down and they talk to him and they say, "Thank you so much for coming to our house. We really appreciate it." And the kids are talking to him, the parents are talking to him. Everyone's in the house with peace and harmony. It's a really, truly lovely scene. And they apologize to him. They say, "Listen, we're very poor. We don't have much food. But nonetheless, we are so excited that you are here. We are going to bring you our best food." And they bring out a little bit of bread and some tasteless soup. And just, the cucumbers, maybe some cabbage, just a few vegetables. Yet they treat him with tremendous amount of enthusiasm and dignity. And King Solomon said that this verse, the Midrash teaches after that. King Solomon said, "Tov arochat yarak ve'ava sham." It is better to have a meal of merely just a few vegetables, yet it comes with love, than bait male mishor avus v'sin'a bo, than a well-fed ox, and that meal is filled with hate. It's better to have a meal with just a few vegetables, just a few crackers, and yet there's love there. The guest is welcome. The people in the house are getting along. Everything is beautiful and with harmony, rather than shoa avus v'sinabo, rather than a ox that is, stuffed and is filled with, that home is filled with hate. Very, very true and potent lesson for life. Always, no matter what, better to have peace without wealth than to have wealth without peace. A lot of times you see people get into fights over this amount of property, that amount of property, and they end up losing more from the fights in terms of quality of life, of health, of years that they end up spending on those kinds of disputes over the important choice of being happy, the choice of having a life that's meaningful and harmonious. Next pasuk, Ish chema yegare madon. A man of anger will attract conflict. So if someone is soft-spoken and easy, then conflict will avoid him. But if someone is constantly talking in an inflammatory fashion, then there will be conflict attracted to that person. Ish chema yegare madon. But a person who is slow to anger, a person who is gracious, a person who is really, even if you offend them directly, they don't respond with anger. That is the type of person that is going to cause conflicts to be resolved and fights to end. Next is a really beautiful lesson about laziness. If you look at the path of a lazy person, what they see is roadblocks. When a lazy person says, oh, let me do this, but then they're like, no, but there's this that's going to stop me, that's going to stop me, I can't do it because of this, this, or that. They're constantly seeing fences, they're constantly seeing roadblocks. However, if you look at the path of a righteous person, a hardworking person, then that path is paved. So you have two people, they see the exact same path, yet the lazy person sees all the obstacles, he sees all the things, all the excuses that will prevent him from doing the work. And the hardworking, honest person, when he sees the path, he sees, oh, this I can solve, this I can solve, this I can solve, etc. There's nothing that stands in his path. So it's a powerful lesson about when there's a will, there's a way. And when there's no will, even if it's possible that there is a way, there won't be a way, because that person will always see the obstacles. Next, pasuk. Ben chacham yesamach av. A wise son will make the father happy. Uksil adam bozeimo. And a foolish man will cause his mother to be disrespected. And we've seen before, this is also speaking about the Jewish people. When we do what we're supposed to be doing, God is proud of us. When we don't, that's an embarrassment to ourselves. And there's just an important lesson here also, is that the father is always there at the good moments. The father is always there for the child at the good moments. The mother is there more often in the difficult moments. So, ben chacham yesamach av, uksil adam bozeimo. And yet, a foolish person is a disgrace to their mother, because the mother is always there in their difficult moments. The father sometimes is not to be seen when things get difficult. So, but when it's pride, then the Ben Chacham brings wisdom to his father. A heartless person is always happy to rejoice even when things are wrong. There's a very famous story they used to say in small European towns, that in the tent, this is before people had any kind of awareness of mental health, of taking care of things in a medical way, etc. So there's this fellow, he's dancing in the town square, and he's completely naked and acting in a funny way. He's hopping like a chicken. He's just acting completely in an irrational fashion. And the entire town is standing around him and laughing and laughing and laughing. And finally, there's one person standing there, and he looks very sad. So someone tells him, why aren't you laughing? Look how everyone is entertained. And he says, that person who you're all mocking, that is my son. So we're all happy to make fun of things unless it's actually our own thing. And so we say here, if someone is heartless, if someone has no compassion, then they can rejoice and take joy in any kind of foolishness. But a wise person is just thinking of how to straighten things out and make things better. We are here every day, Sunday through Thursday, 12 o'clock to 12:20. Please join us. Any feedback is welcome and much appreciated. Bezrat Hashem, there should be tremendous amount of health, happiness, and good things for you and your family. And it should be a good day for everyone. Bezrat Hashem, naaseh ve'natzliach.